So we're going to jump into DynamoDB for just a minute, and then we're going to come back to the PowerPoint slides because some of this is easier just to go through in the slides than to actually have the live demo for. So from AWS, when you log in, you just expand your services menu here, and then here's the many services that AWS has. But under this database section, we're going to go into DynamoDB. And let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. So to get started in DynamoDB, all you have to do is click this big blue button that says Create Table. And when you do this, it asks for a table name and your primary key, which by default is just going to be a partition key. But I'm going to call this table courses, and we want both a partition key and a sort key. And I'm going to make my partition key department and our sort key course. And I'm going to say use our default settings here and just click create. And we're going to come back and look at courses 2 in just a moment. But our table is being created. We'll give this just a moment to do that. All right, and our table is now created. So if we click on the items tab, I have to make this a little bit smaller. You see there's currently no items in our table. So I'm going to say create item, and by default, it just asks us for these 2 attributes that we have to have a value for, department and course. So my department in this case is disk, and I'm just going to build out the database that we had in our PowerPoint slides. So disk, and let's do MIS 3376. I'm going to add a few additional fields here. So we're going to say the title here is database 1. We're going to append another, let's do a number this time. And the hours is 3. We'll append one more attribute of type undergrad. So when we click on save, now we have written an item to this table that is in DynamoDB. And so no installation, no configuration, no nothing, and we've got some data in our database. So obviously, while we can do this through this command line interface, this is not going to be the most efficient method of doing this. So Amazon does provide a command line interface for interacting with all of the AWS services. Let's see if I can make this bigger too. And that command line interface is through a tool that you download and install. And when you do that, from just a command prompt, you can type AWS, and that will connect to your AWS account and let you interact with all of the different AWS services. So if you want to play around with this, really getting into all this command line stuff with AWS is a little bit above and beyond the scope of what we can do in this class. But if you want to play around with this, once you get it installed, the first thing you need to do is type AWS Configure. And when you do that, you'll have to provide your access key and a secret access key, or your access key ID and the secret access key, which you can find both of these in your AWS account settings. And this is how the command line client knows how to authenticate to AWS as you. So this is not your username and password that you use to log into AWS, but it's kind of an equivalent secret key that AWS uses to authenticate you. So the first thing you do is go through AWS Configure, and then at that point you can use all of the other AWS command line commands to interact with AWS just like you can through the web interface. So for example, well, if you just type let's see, AWS help. This, wait, what do you have to do here? Sorry, I forget exactly all, because there's so many things in AWS, right? This is just the list of the first thing you can type after AWS to execute commands against AWS, one of which being, well, like here's some EC2 stuff. DynamoDB is somewhere in here. There you go. AWS DynamoDB. So that's what we're going to do. Oh gosh, I want out of this. Right, AWS DynamoDB, and then whatever other options we want. So what we want to do is put some new items into this courses table that we've just created. So I'm going to say AWS DynamoDB put item into this table courses, and then the item that we want to put. And what we need to do now is pass in basically a JSON formatted object. And I'm going to copy and paste this because otherwise it's just far too much typing. And so again, this looks kind of messy, just like it did when we were using CouchDB, because we have to escape some of the quotation marks and things like that. But basically, we're putting an item into the courses table, and this is the JSON object of that item. The disk department, the course is BZAN 6354. The title is RDBMS for BA. Hours is 3. The type is grad course. It has a description. When we do this, we get no response, but at least no error message back from AWS. If we go back over to the web interface, we see that, in fact, that did insert this new item into our table. I'm going to insert a couple more. Okay, if we go back over here and look. So we have a couple of courses there. We can click on them and see all the contents. We can also, as you might expect, query from the command line. So we can do AWS DynamoDB query table name courses, and here is the key that we want to query, and we're having to pass these variables in. And you can actually pass this in through a JSON file or any number of other ways, but we want to get all of the data about the course that is in the disk department with a course name of BZAN 6356. And when we do that, we get in return this JSON object that describes the course. So it has a prereq of 6354. There's the title, there's the description, it's a grad course, and so forth and so on. So that's kind of our basic method of reading and writing data from DynamoDB, and there's more nuance to it than that, but not quite as much nuance to reading and writing data as we saw with Redis.